Hi, this is Niall from windowsnoob.com, and today I'm going to show you how we can enable MBAM on a physical device using the new feature in SCCM Technical Preview 1905. So first of all, let's go back to that machine I was remoted to. That's this one, and you can see that it's not BitLockered. And I'm just installing the config manager client. It looks like it's installed. For this version of Technical Preview, your lab needs to be in PKI mode in order to get MBAM to work. And I'll show you a bit of that later. So let's just go and check the client agent. Okay, so as you can see, it's installed and it is in PKI mode. And let's go and get some policy. And we'll give it a few minutes because I've only just installed the client on it using client push. We'll come back to that in a minute. So basically here is config manager, and this is the Technical Preview 1905. And in here under Assets and Compliance, in the Endpoint Protection section, you have BitLocker Management, MBAM, right? And in there, what I've done is I've created a policy. And all you do to create a policy is click on that, give it a name, and decide what components you want to include. And here the first section for BitLocker drive encryption is for Windows 8 and later devices, but not Windows 10. The second one is for Windows 10, obviously. And if you set it to enabled, for example, then you can pick the different algorithms. Right? So next, we have the option to configure the MBAM service. If we set it to enabled, you can decide, well, what do you want it to recover? What do you want it to store? The recovery password and key package, or just the recovery password only? And how often do you want the client to check in with the MBAM service on the config manager server, the management point? And by default, it's every 90 minutes. In a lab, you want to bring that down to maybe every 5 minutes or something. And this is a lab. Here, for operating system drive setup information, you can configure whether the operating system drive must be encrypted or not. And obviously, we want to set that as enabled. And next, we can decide whether or not it's going to allow BitLocker with a compatible TPM. Of course, we're going to allow that. And you can decide whether it's going to be TPM only and TPM and pin. And if it is a pin, what is the pin length? Once you're done with that, go through the wizard. Go through the wizard. Done. And then you can deploy that wizard or deploy that policy to a collection. But I'm not going to do that because I've already created this one here. This one's pretty default. In fact, I've configured very little in it. Haven't even configured this. I have enabled encryption on the operating system drive, and I've enabled recovery password only, and the configure MBAM services is enabled. Okay, so that policy is deployed to my all Windows 10 collection. And if we go there and have a look at that, we have some computers in there. This is a lab, so it's not production. So, okay, this one here is my Windows Insider release. Let's see, where is our other one? So in order to test that this is working, in other words, the encryption of the device, you're going to need to test it on real hardware. So this is an actual Surface Pro, which I have physically connected into the network. The other devices like this one here, they are virtual machines. They will show the MBAM pop-up and they will install the MBAM client, but that's about it, right? So let's go back here for a sec. We can speed this along and just add that computer to our all Windows 10 collection. Let's see what happens now. There we go. So now it's in. And let's trigger that they get policy. Okay. And if we remote back to that computer, at the moment, it hasn't got the policy yet, I don't think. But what we can do is we can look in Control Panel again and look at programs. And let's see what programs are installed on this. The one that I'm interested in is the mbam agent. We don't see that there. I don't see it, at least. What do we have here? No, don't see it yet. So it hasn't come down yet, but it will. There it is. Wow, it just came down. So now that that is installed, this computer will be mbam controlled. And once the mbam part of it kicks in, it should start popping up a pop-up to the user, informing them that they are required to encrypt their operating system drive. So that should pop up in a minute, and while we're waiting for it, we can look at some other things like the event viewer. If we go down here, I'll show you where to find the mbam logs when you're troubleshooting stuff with this. It's not the fastest computer in the world. It is an original Surface Pro 1 from many years ago. Okay, so if we go here, and we should see an mbam section, and there it is. Right, and it's got two logs. First one is, okay, so this is not good. Unable to connect to the mbam recovery and hardware service. Cannot process the request. Okay, that's not good. What do we have here? So here it has actually applied some policies, which is good, but it's not able to contact the back end. So let's have a try and figure out what's going on there. Okay. So if we look on the config manager server itself, and go into IIS, this is where the mbam service is running on your management point, and you will see there it is. That is it. So this is the service that's running on your config manager server. Let's see, is there anything in there that we can look at? Some files. There should also be a logs folder. And I don't know what type of logs these are, but something I have to look at later. So it looks like this is up and running at the moment. Okay, I'm back. I restarted the config manager server because it seems that the mbam endpoint was having some sort of a problem. C'est la vie. Now it's working, or at least it was 2 minutes ago when I checked it. So if we go and have a quick look on a VM, which is this one here, and if I was to click on start, what you will see on a virtual machine when the mbam pop-up tries to start encryption, it will just fail, right? And it will give you an error, something like let's see, let's refresh. An error occurred while applying MBAM policies, details null. And the reason it says null in this particular case is because this is Windows Insider Preview Release. But on my other Windows 10 1809 VM, it basically gives you a hint that this is not going to happen because it's a virtual machine and MBAM doesn't support encryption on virtual machines for some crazy reason. So just keep that in mind when you're troubleshooting MBAM in Technical Preview 1905. It's not going to encrypt your VMs. You need to have a physical machine to test with, right? And believe me, I did a lot of testing just to verify. Okay, so if we go back here into Config Manager and to our physical machine, that's this one here, you can see now that it has successfully connected to the MBAM recovery service. And let's just verify that it's still okay. Seems to be a couple of minutes ago. And here was the last error, but that was 10 minutes ago, so that's okay. So this one should be able to get policy from MBAM, and hopefully we should see the pop-up, the MBAM pop-up coming shortly, so that it will start encrypting. That's really what we're waiting for here, the holy grail of MBAM, that the MBAM agent starts encryption, right? And as you recall, there it is. There's our MBAM agent, and it's actually the 2.5 release, the same one that's pretty much in public domain today. And we're still waiting. Nothing has happened yet. Question is why? It's got the MBAM client. It's got policy. Let's have a look at some logs. Why not? So there are two logs on the client that will give us some sort of an indication of what's going on. This one here tells us that it's found the management point, and if you have a HTTP lab, this is not going to work, like I said, with this first release. You have to have a HTTPS PKI enabled lab. So there's nothing really much happening going on there. And that's the information about installing the MBAM client itself. And it's not complaining about anything. So what is going on? Could it be the version of Windows itself? Let's have a look at that. Windows 10 Enterprise, that should be okay. And this one does have a TPM, I think. Let's check. Wireless is disabled. Does have a TPM. Okay. And I think I'm an administrator there. Yes, I am. Let's try this. Let's see what state the TPM is on this computer. TPM is ready for use. Well, that's something at least. So why is it not getting the MBAM policy, or at least why is it not showing the MBAM pop-up? That is the question. So we've got the policy. No new errors. Policies were applied, so it is getting the policies. And if we do the following, what we should see, we had this open. What we should see is, I didn't want that. Let's see. If we look at the local security policies that are applied, local GPOs, and okay, so there's part of our problem. We could see that it definitely has MBAM policy configured. So why is it not trying to encrypt? Do not allow. Well, we don't care about that. There's that 4 that we had configured in the MBAM policy. And that's not related. How about the next one here? Okay, it's probably some weird and fantastic bug that we're seeing, but what should happen is what we were seeing on the other VM, which is this one. Ironically, this one has no problem showing the pop-up, or at least had no problem showing the pop-up. Let's try again. Could it be because I created another policy, but I didn't deploy the other policy? So I've noticed that this one has also stopped showing the pop-up, which is interesting. So something is going on. And that's okay. We expect that because that's VM. Core service is up. Don't see any errors about the service going down. So what is going on here? Let's look at our policy again. Let's just delete that one. Yeah, let's go back into this one. Choose a drive encryption. Let's do this. Enabled. Let's set it to 256. Apply. Maybe this is our problem. I did click apply. Yep. Good. Let's go back to the VM first of all. Do this. See, do we see a pop-up? Come on, MBAM. It's not playing nice. The demigods are not with me today. Let's go here. Let's try this one. And let's look at this. So it has definitely not encrypted anything. Okay, I'll take a pause. Okay, so I'm back. I figured it out. So the reason why the pop-up is not showing, it's basically when you're RDP'd into the computer, the pop-up is not going to show. Now, why? I don't know. Some fantastic MBAM setting. That's just the way it behaves. It's really weird. So what I did was I disconnected from the Windows Insider, this one here, from RDP, and I logged into it directly on the VM itself, and as you can see, there's the pop-up. So let's do the same thing with the Surface Pro, just to prove that that's the case. So here is the Surface Pro. I'm logged onto it. As you can see, there is no pop-up. We'll kick off the policy again, and I'm going to disconnect and just move away over here and log into the physical device. I'm logging onto it. And I'm logged on. And I'm waiting for it to do its magic and show us the MBAM pop-up. Should take about a minute because I've configured it to be once a minute, which is a crazy setting, but while I'm waiting for that pop-up to appear, let's look here. You can see this is purely because it's a lab. I've set it to that the client would check in once a minute. So hopefully within a minute we should see something happening on the Surface Pro, or else we have some other issue. But everything else seems to be working fine. And there we go. It has just appeared. Right, so that was exactly the reason why it's failing. So let's RDP to that one now, because now we can actually see it. And look at that. There it is. This is the MBAM pop-up appearing on the physical Surface Pro. It wouldn't appear when I was RDP'd to it, but it will appear if you log on to it locally. And at that point, you can then RDP back in again and do your thing. So let's click on Start and see what happens. Encrypting C. Now let's go into our administrative command prompt. No. Now it's going really slow, so I guess it is encrypting C. Yeah. That is really not reacting at all. As I said, it is a real machine, old Surface Pro. So if we do this, we should see that it is encrypting, and it is. Check it out. So I think what we have here is finally, after a day and a half of playing with Technical Preview 1905 and MBAM, I finally got it to work. This is the first time you guys can see it. I can see it. This is brilliant. So this is MBAM. As you can see, there's the BitLocker icon. This is MBAM integrated within Config Manager. And in order for you to test this and start playing with it, you need to download and install System Center Configuration Manager Technical Preview 1905. And that's it. And you can see in the What's New section, there is just so many good things in here, so many new things. There's just many, many things to play with. But the one that I was most interested in was BitLocker Management, MBAM. So what this can mean for you is that if you have an MBAM infrastructure in your enterprise, that you can decide to keep it on premise and let Config Manager manage it instead of your MBAM dedicated server. The keys and everything should be stored within the Config Manager database. I will do a blog post shortly to reveal how you can pull that information. I don't think there's any reports yet, but I think what we will see is a lot of things changing on the MBAM front in terms of Config Manager. Thanks for watching this video and staying with me. Cheers.